Whether you're new to pool and practicing the basics, or a more experienced player performing drills to improve your shot making and positional play, the Drill Partner is perfect for you.
Hey, Molina Mike. How's it going, buddy?
We made it, my man. We made it. It's Friday. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. Am I blurry?
No.
Okay, good. Hey, one for the good guys. Hey, man, Friday afternoon, exciting tournament, lots of stuff going on. We're going to go through the final 8. It's going to be a short little show, but guys, thanks for joining us as always. Mike, I saw a clip. I want to start with this. The craziest ending to a match with Fortunsky and Alex Kazakis. Did you see that?
Mm-mm.
What? No, you didn't see that? So, okay, Fortunsky is like straight in, I think, on the 7 ball.
Then he miscued.
He not only did he miscue, it was basically like scooping under the ball, picking it up. It lands on the side rail, rolls down the side of the rail, comes back onto the table, hooks Kazakis, or kind of hooks Kazakis. He had a chance to make a ball, but it was a long shot. Misses the shot. Then Fortunsky banks a ball, hooks him again. Anyway, it ends with Kazakis jumping a ball, selling out, and slamming his cue down on the floor, the table, anything he could slam his cue on. It was crazy. Anyway,
I'll tell you what'll solve that. Have Alex play some one pocket, he'll make that cut. Go play some one pocket. Alex, go play that one pocket. It's well in the repertoire if you play some one pocket. That's a cut he should have made.
I'm going to ask a ridiculously dumb question, one that I don't fully understand, right? I understand in amateur leagues that you have to be, you have to think about what you're going to call as a foul, right? So as an example, some leagues, if your cue ball is frozen to the object ball, it's basically like whatever you do is legal, okay? At the pro level, there needs to be fouls called on particular shots. And one of them, in my opinion, is a miscue where you scoop the cue ball up in the air. It's basically like he had a spoon and lifted it up in the air and placed it on the side rail. That can't be legal. Can it?
Let's get Dr. Dave on.
I'm telling you.
Get Dr. Dave on the case.
To me, that shot is not a legal shot, Mike. I'm sorry. And I get that it wasn't intentional. It was a miscue. But the nature of that miscue was such that the tip went under the ball, lifts the ball up in the air. To me, that's a foul every day. And the fact that it wasn't Ed Ladali, I think, was the referee there. We're gonna have to ask Ed, get his thoughts on that. One of our followers there.
We can get a hold of it. We can get a hold of old Ed too. If he scoops it, I'm guessing it's gonna be a foul. But I think we got to talk to. We got to talk with better, more established people than us. I talked with this guy Cecil who runs ACS. He was talking about being on some rules committee way back when they invented the circle. Way back when, before caveman days. And when they were inventing the rules. But I'm sure we can get some heads together, get a more logical approach to it. Yeah, see, look what Matt says. Matchroom refs have been treating the unintentional miscues as a foul. So, yeah, I think I'm with you guys. For once, I agree with the chat.
Well, I kind of, like, when I saw it, I thought, there's no way that's a legal shot, even if it was unintentional, right? You very rarely see a miscue called a foul.
Well, but intent doesn't matter. If exactly. You're calling balls and strikes. You're calling, you're calling whether your toe was on the line or not, so. If you're out of bounds, you're out of bounds, son.
Yeah. It's kind of like that shot. Have you ever seen the shot where the cue ball's frozen to a ball and you can kind of push it into the rail and your Q-tip stays on the cue ball and pushes into it? It's not really a legal shot, but it doesn't look like a double hit because it never officially leaves the ball. Does that make sense? Anyway, I digress. Let's get into.
Are you talking about that one pocket shot when you freeze it to the inside of the facing?
No, it's kind of like
I got no idea what you're talking about.
Slide up. Okay.
I got no idea what you're talking about
then. That was funny. Well, why don't we bring up the brackets? You want to bring up the brackets, or you want me to?
Let's roll it. You've been running the ship today.
Turn this off. Turn this on. Wait,
I'm
yeah,
doing
there
my
we go.
best Joey Ryan impression today.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. I think we got it. All right. Hey, it's fun being a producer again. I like it. All right. So here's what we got. We're down to the final 8 at the International Open. And I even had to ask you today, Mike, like, what in the world? Why? I thought for sure they were doing true double elimination, but no, this tournament, like every other tournament now, went to a redraw. The redraw came out some wee hours of the morning, I think. And in that redraw, we saw this lineup here. We had Victor Zielinski versus Vitaly Petsura, and Victor wins 10-1. Not much of a challenge there. We talked about Vitaly, how it's so hard to rate his game because there's certain matches where he just looks dominant and tournaments even like the Texas Open and just goes on beating everybody. And then there's other matches where it seems like he just doesn't show up. And that was kind of the case here in this match, I guess.
Well, I mean, it depends on where you have him at. I think for me, looking at the matches that he had yesterday, I thought he kind of overperformed. So obviously I didn't think he'd lose 10-1 to Victor, but I certainly wouldn't put him in that same type of player as Victor. But yeah, I mean, kudos to him on a great tournament. I think it's pretty solid. Obviously, a disappointment for him just how he showed up today, but some promising things because I think that he played pretty well. It showed throughout the event.
Yeah, the next match, Panda Mario He takes it 10-8 over Josh Filler. Pretty solid upset there. I mean, we know that Mario's capable, but I don't think anybody would have picked this for Mario to win outright. He was probably a 1 to 2 game underdog there at least, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, probably something like 2 as a push against Josh. Last year 14.1. The guy who wins it is the guy right above Mario and one Victor Zielinski. I think he ends up in the finals of the International that same year, losing to Jason. So could it be kind of a repeat situation where the winner of the 14.1 has a deep run or gets to a final of the International Open? Yeah, at least the door's open, as they say. Really happy for Mario. Josh is a great guy, friend of the show, friend of ours. But I root for Mario. I want to see him get over that hump. I want to see him have success. I want to see him get a big win in a major. I don't even think he's been in a major final. I wouldn't consider the 14.1 a major. So I don't think he's been in a major rotation final. But both these guys I root for. So it's kind of hard. Victor the same way. I like the kid personally, the same way I like Mario. So a matchup that I'll be watching for sure in the final 8.
Well, the last few days we talked about what a player Lee Van Corteza is, how he's just so steady and solid and makes it deep in tons of events. But Aloysius Yap takes him out 10-6, and Yap is just in top form right now, playing really well. He's going to go on to face Fedor Gors, who knocked off Jesus Atencio 10-3. And these two just have this habit of matching up late in tournaments where they're playing each other over the last month or so, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, one is sending each other home, that's for sure, and it's going to be the case tonight as well. Both guys who are just seems like the epitome of rotation consistency as of late. Yap is I mean, hitting on all gears isn't even the case. I mean, the guy is just steady as a locomotive. I think that the fan favorite will be Federer, but the betting line should be about close to even, just given how Yap's been playing. So. I'm going to be really watching into this one. 1 or 2 mistakes could really turn the tides when you have alternate break. So, yeah, it's going to be a great matchup for sure.
Yeah, and you said Mario He is that player that you're rooting for to kind of get over the hump, and I'm with you. I love the guy, and I'd like to see him win one of these events. But man, this is not easy. He's got to be the underdog out of these 4, this grouping of 4, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, wow, that's tough to say that you would put Yap in it. I mean, sorry, that you would put Mario in as number 4. But if I'm ranking these players up top, yeah,
He's
I
number
guess
4.
I guess he would be. So what would be your 3, Joe? Or
What's that?
The previous what would be your 4? How would you rank them in order?
Well, I think Federer and Yap right now are about even. They're about pick 'em at the top, at least in terms of tournament results. And I'd put Victor just behind them. and then Mario Heat just behind him. It's a competitive grouping here. It just goes to show how hard it is to win one of these. We say it all the time. But if Mario does something here where he wins 2 matches from this point, what a great performance that would be for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as poise and holding it together, probably Federer would maybe tip the scales a hair over Victor and Yap. But when you talk about where guys are playing today, Yap, is kind of like, hey, scoot over a little bit here, So,
Don't forget about me.
yeah, I think you're right, man. I think you're absolutely right. So, it's going to be super competitive up top, just super high level of talent. And young guys as well. These are guys who are well in their prime or heading into their prime. So it's going to be some great matchups, no doubt.
Yeah, Matt Poland in the chat brings up a good point. He's like, I love brackets like this where whoever wins from here is going to be a great story, right? There's no one that you look at and they're like, oh, this guy's a commanding favorite from here. And there's storylines everywhere with Yap and Federer matching up over and over again. So it's going to be interesting.
Man, Shorty Dancer with the Joey Ryan line.
What do you say? One of these
you can't see
it. Oh, thanks, Shorty. Yeah. All right, moving on down. We have David Al-Kaidi broke the hearts of a lot of Americans, beating Shane Van Boening 10-6. And Naoki Oi, we talked about him yesterday about how he just doesn't. He gets deep and he just doesn't seem to get over that hump. Kind of like Mario. Great personality for pool, tons of fun. And we even said like tough test against Jason Shaw, who we know plays well at this event. Well, he knocks him off 10-6 and advances to face Al-Kaidi in the round of 8. Thoughts on this matchup here?
Yeah, one of many upsets throughout this event or throughout this round of 16. Naoki Oi would probably be close to the top. And actually, when I just think about a pure upset, he might be number one in that category through these selection of matches. Beating Jason, we know how Jason plays at this event. We know how he's been playing lately. I know Oi, can be a fan favorite just as far as personality, but definitely not having the consistency or the resume that Jason Shaw has. So 10-6 scoreline, I think it just goes back to a combination of playing well and more importantly, the format, right? The alternate break is going to give you a chance. And I didn't get to watch a lot of this matchup, but kudos to Naoki. I think, you're going to have your hands full with a guy like David because we talked about players who are just rolling along and who always seem to be there. David's in that list of player.
Yeah, I'm liking David to kind of make it through to the bottom half here and be in the finals of this with the way things are shaping up. But you talk about Naoki Oi being the upset of this round. Maybe not so fast because Alex Pagulayan, who we talked about, knocked off Albin Ocean 10-9. What a Madeline. Hey, Madeline. Making an appearance.
Yeah.
But Alex Pagulayan knocking off Albin Ocean, that's a huge win for Alex, making it real deep in this tournament. We talked about just how good he is tactically at the table, and if he could figure out the break and put some of his old form together, he could be really tough in this event, and it's proven to be true. And then you have Gerson Martinez, who's turning out to have a great tournament, beats Shane earlier on in the event, and beats Fortunsky here 10-9. Couple close matches. What are your thoughts with Alex and Gerson advancing here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's number one, I'm happy for Alex, because Alex has been kind of on the outside looking in when it comes to rotation tournaments, over the last few years. We know his resume, we know his skill set, we know that I think this opens the door to him, getting back into being more competitive. The break shot is more of a shot per se versus having to use more force or power, which Alex just doesn't have at this point. And I feel like that's why his 10-ball game is such a liability. But beating Albin is big time. Albin has shown form in this event in years past. This is going to only boost Alex's confidence. And to be honest with you, no disrespect to Gerson, because I love the guy and he showed a lot of heart in that match with Fortunsky. But it shows that there's opportunity here for Alex, because if you beat Albin, then for my money, you're supposed to follow that up and beat Gerson in the round of 8. So and Gerson with a big upset, not a big upset, but a relatively decent sized upset. He was down late in that match to Fortunsky, showed a lot of poise and and something you just don't see with that fundamentals, and it got there, man. He
You
got
keep
there.
saying
So
that, Mike, but
big congratulations.
I haven't seen Gerson play that much, and you keep talking about his fundamentals. What's wrong with his fundamentals?
He can steer a little bit. He can get up on his shot quite a bit. He uses a lot of the old body English to will the ball in at times. He's obviously a very talented player, great guy. But I feel like on the 4.5, it's going to be more forgiving, where the 4 is going to expose that a lot more. So maybe that's why we haven't seen as much consistency or a deep run in a more traditional matchroom 9-ball event. This one, I believe they're playing on standard diamonds. So
Yeah,
that would just lead me to believe that that's more in his wheelhouse. So yeah, I mean, look, Gerson's fun to watch, and he's a great guy, like I mentioned. And I hope he continues his run, but he's going to have his hands full if Alex is playing the right way. And if the break becomes difficult for both players, then you're definitely going to go and favor Alex post break, because Alex is moving, and to be able to outsmart you is exactly where he wants to be at. That cat mouse game is right up his alley.
Well, if you're a pool player and you don't use body English, I don't know what's wrong with you. We all do that, right? You got to steer those balls in the pocket.
Whatever it takes.
All right. So it sounds to me like you may be picking David and Alex in the semifinal from the bottom half of this bracket. Is that what you got?
That's what I got. But if anything, that's what I got. But it's hard to say, because if we were picking 16 from last night, I guarantee you we both have pie on our face, because the guys who have made it through this far would not have been guys who we would have picked, Joe.
It's crazy.
So I think conventional wisdom would say that David versus Alex might be the ones you go for, but I feel like at this point all bets are off. If you can get someone with a little bit of weight, which it can be on some of these matchups, go ahead and take it and roll the dice, because the logic here, or who's supposed to win, isn't necessarily happening, at least in the round of 16.
So bottom half, pick the lines. Give me the lines on these two matches. What do you like?
Probably David -1 at a minimum, given a game. Maybe if you find someone who just loves Oi, you might be willing to take him even. I think 2 is just too much of a stretch, although maybe that might be this a closer scoreline to what the end result will be. Alex versus Gerson. Alex, for the namesake alone, it's kind of like when you're a home team in football, right? It's worth probably 3 points just being the home guy. So Alex being Alex over Gerson might be, more weighted, but it's close, Joe. I mean, it's close.
All right, back to the top half. Same thing. What are your lines on these two matches? Victor Zielinski, Mario He, and Aloysius Yap and Fedor Gorst.
Oh, they're pick'ems for sure.
Both matches.
I think both up top. While they have the skill set to win an event, right? And I believe that, although Victor's actually gotten there before, he's shown some cracks and chinks in that armor at times too, when the event seems to get more pressure. I feel like with the exit of a filler, though, it's setting itself up to be your event, right? Go out there, you beat Mario, probably end up with the dance against Federer. And oh, by the way, last year Victor knocked Federer out of this event. So there's a little bit of history there at the International Open. So yeah, I mean, I don't know who I'm rooting for, or who I think's gonna get through, but I know it's gonna be close either way. Well,
yeah.
Should be.
Well, I tell you what, you know what this reminds me of, Mike? When I was a kid growing up, I remember the NFL, you had your power teams back when in the day, in the 80s. You had the Redskins, the Raiders, Steelers, certain teams that were power teams, you kind of expected them to win. But then when I got a little older, maybe in my 20s, 30s, whatever, it seemed like something changed. And it might have been free agency. It might have been, the way that drafts were occurring or whatever. But the league just had tons of parity. And it kind of feels like pool is that way right now, where you get down to the final 16. And like you said, we follow this stuff pretty closely from event to event. And yet half our picks are wrong usually, or at least mine are. I don't know about yours.
Well, you're always going to have this Alexa, Bisterbosch, Dang kind of guys who are going to be in the 8. It's just, it's odds, if anything else, so, and the talent, of course, has caught up a lot more than maybe the way it used to be, further separated. So, yeah, you make a great point there, but it's a numbers game, and listen, the guys that we're thinking about are, a guy who's been to a semifinal of a U.S. Open in Yap, a guy who's a multiple-time world champion in Alex, a guy like David who's come off a major this year, beating Shane. Mario, he's been in a semifinal of a major. Now, of course, nobody would have picked him to beat Filler, but he did. So let's see how you can follow that up, because you beat Filler. You're supposed to give Victor all that he can handle and then some. And it looks like Mario's confidence is there. I tell you, like, out of the 8, I don't know who I'm pulling for more, but my heart is probably picking for the winner out of that first matchup, man. I want to see either one of those two guys get through.
Yeah, so just to recap, and guys, do us a favor, hit up the chat, let us know who you're picking. We got Victor Zielinski, Mario He, Aloysius Yap, Fedor Gorst, David Alcade, Naoki Oi, and Alex Pegulayan and Gerson Martinez. Hit up the chat, let us know who you like. We'll be checking it tonight, and tomorrow we'll come back and tell you if you dogged it or not. So hit us up on Patreon, guys, patreon.com/doggingit. Mike and I, we both have a busy weekend, but we're going to find time to get back on here, keep you guys updated, and let you know what's going on. So thanks for all the support. Thanks for Franco Custom Cues for the title sponsor, and all these folks down along the bottom who support us each and every day. We appreciate you guys.